What is that bowl of purple shit you have in front of you? Are you eating yogurt?
It's an acai bowl that I made.
Acai?
That's the name of a berry.
I know it from crossword puzzles. It's a very useful 4-letter word for crossword people.
They say it's a superfood.
Well, how do you feel? Super?
I feel good. Thanks for asking. Well, so you're recording, I'm recording. I guess that means that we're doing a podcast again.
Yeah.
My name is Sam Geller. I'm speaking. I got my brother Max on the line. And we have this podcast called Phone Wallet Keys, David Ortiz. And in the past, there was some how should I put this, disagreement on what season of the podcast we were on. But I think this actually crystal clear in a uncontroversial way represents the beginning of something new as we get back to this podcast. So I'd like to welcome you to season 3. And to do a quick recap of
let's do
the first 2 seasons.
Let's do a quick recap of season 2, which never happened. So if you missed that, everybody, don't feel bad. You're actually all caught up. It's not like you missed integral parts of the universe construction here. It just didn't happen.
What are you talking about? That's so wrong. If you missed season 2, then you might not know that the Celtics and the Bruins didn't win. The Boston Slam fell apart towards the finish line. We actually never did a podcast after the Bruins lost Game 7 of the Stanley Cup.
Because we were mad.
We were really upset, and then that ended season 2. Season 1 was when the Red Sox and Patriots won their respective championships.
Season 2 didn't happen.
Okay.
Like season 2 was like, I mean, it's not like season 1 ended when the Patriots won the Super Bowl, as you just suggested. Season 2 didn't begin like in the middle of basketball playoff run. It just didn't happen. There's no episodes.
What?
How many episodes do you think are in season 2?
I don't know, and I don't frankly think that...
1.5. One is an episode in which we argue about whether or not we should continue doing a podcast. 2 is an episode where we try and karmically will the Bruins to victory, and then we never follow up when it fails. And then David Ortiz himself got shot, and we didn't even mention it.
Right, that's where I want to start. That's where I want to begin. That's exactly where I want. I'm glad that you could get to that and drop the ludicrous other shit that you were saying.
I'm not
David
dropping
Ortiz
it.
Got shot is really what ended the podcast.
It was hard to have a podcast about David Ortiz when he was killed. Like it's hard to consider ourselves podcasters when David Ortiz was nearly killed and we didn't have anything to say about it, even though we named our podcast after him.
Yeah, I mean, and the Bruins lost Game 7 at home in the Stanley Cup.
I don't want to talk about that.
It was a bad time for us as brothers and as podcast hosts.
No, we're getting along fine. I don't want people to think like.
No, we're not.
No.
Don't listen to him.
Well,
no, we get along fine.
No, but that does bring me to, because like when you were sending me the things that you wanted to discuss, you did mention apologizing to people about. What were you going to say sorry for, Sam, to everybody? Stop eating your acai bowl or whatever the fuck and lock in, all right? Laser focus.
Go.
I'm just saying, when you sent me the list of topics you want to discuss, one was like a vague rundown of the seasons, which I disagreed with, and then you were wanting to apologize for leaving everybody hanging. It seems like.
Okay.
Is that right?
I mean, I think.
Am I wrong about what you want to apologize for?
An apology seems to be in order to our fans, the listeners of the podcast, because we just abandoned them.
we did abandon them, and we should feel bad about that.
So we're sorry.
But I would just say that, like, of all of the things that you've done to my friends, like dropping the podcast in the middle, leaving everybody hanging, even as David Ortiz bled on the floor of a Dominican nightclub. It's not the worst thing you've ever done.
I mean, what
to my friends?
What have I done to your friends?
Well, the other day I was like snooping through your old bedroom, and I found, I would say, like 4 dozen cassette tapes from a time where you told all my friends to donate to like your what was it? Your like
Are you
Kickstarter or Patreon, and in return you would give them all a mixtape, like a physical mixtape, even though the internet existed. This is the plan anyway. And many people donated. Like, the project was funded. And weirdly, you recorded all the tapes. You just never sent them out.
Wow.
Does that ring a bell?
I can't believe I'm shocked that you are bringing this up. If you are listening and you are owed a Young and Wilder tape.
I'm just thinking about all the things that you should be sorry for. And like, I think that's more in my person. Like, I have a personal set of beliefs,
enough.
Welching on Kickstarters is pretty high up there on things you shouldn't do.
Unlike you, like completely on the whole other side of the spectrum than you, I am capable of acknowledging my wrongdoings and faults. If I promised you a Young and Wilder tape and I didn't deliver it, I am sorry. Did you hear what that sounds like? That's just a genuine apology. Max, you never in your life have felt this experience, this sensation that I'm having right now. And even now, when all I asked was for you and I as a unit, as a team, to apologize to our listeners, you instead just turn that on. You just like bring up some psychotic shit from literally 15 years ago and say that I owe people an apology for that instead of...
More.
It's just shocking the lengths that you'll go to avoid and deflect when you are culpable for some misdeed, for wrongdoing, and you can't own up to that. And it's the root of so much problems in the world. Is your inability to own up to your own...
My inability to admit when I'm wrong is the cause of what sort of structural problems that are burdening our listeners.
I didn't say structural problems. I said so many problems in the world.
What are they?
I could list them and it would just get so dark so fast. What do you mean? It's nothing bigger than you. It's not like it has had reverb. I mean, maybe like... your inability to apologize to me, say, for all the wrongdoings that you've done to me has made me in turn...
I feel terrible about all the bad things I've ever done to you.
Okay, notice, listeners, that he actually was able to say, I feel terrible, but not apologize. That's not something he's capable of doing.
No, I'm sorry for them too. The listeners, you guys know me. You know how much I love my brother. And if there's anyone like for whom I can experience actual compunction and remorse, it's him, right, everybody? So this whole weird diatribe is not actually based in reality, because
all I want to say is that we're sorry that we abandoned you, the listeners, one David Ortiz.
We let you guys down again as a family.
And what we are doing is we're asking you to give us another shot, and just in time for week 1 of the football season, the NFL. The Patriots are going to be defending their Super Bowl title. And the Red Sox are 7 games back from the wild card, probably have no chance, but we'd like to start.
They suck.
We would like to welcome you to join us once again on another journey. Phone Wallet Keys, David Ortiz.
Cross me up! Don't snap, don't breathe, just leave me of this skin. And baby begin. Stop, don't drop, don't.
Samson, I think we should just do car talk.
What do you mean?
I think we should have people call us up and talk to us about their cars.
What if we just talk to each other about the fact that neither of us have? Let's do proof of concept here. Okay, we got caller Max Geller on the line here. Max, what's the problem with your vehicle?
No, That's not how I
What
wanted this
happened to
segment
your
go.
car?
I mean,
where is your car right now?
my car, it's amazing. It's amazing how you can just like have a car and it'll be like working totally fine, and then it'll stop turning on, and then they'll be like, your car needs a new car, which is what they told me. I had a cracked gasket somewhere, and they're like, you need a new engine. I was like, what does that mean? They're like, your current engine is like, the car is fine. Like 3 out of the 4 doors work. 3 out of the 4 windows work. All the wheels are good. They go and they stop, but the thing propelling them needs to be completely replaced.
Okay, and so now let's pause that. This is a true story, and now let's pick that back up as you want to do car talk. So imagine a listener has just called in and told us that. What do we do? I'm not really. I forget how this works.
Well, I'm glad I'm here to remind you, because this is how it works. So, contrary to what you might think, and I hate for this to be like hostile to your narratives about Boston, but those two brothers didn't actually know everything there is to know about cars.
Okay.
Those people called during the week, even though the show only aired on the weekends once a week. The calls happened ahead of time.
Okay.
And they made this they made a plan. And it's like, you tell us what your problem is, and then they would just Google the problem, and then pretend like they were figuring it out in real time.
Yo, the people don't want to see how the sausage is made. They don't want to know what we do, all the preparation and editing.
But Sam, we could just do that. That's what I'm saying. Like, we could beat, even though we're total charlatans and have no idea what we're talking
literally
about.
No idea
when it comes to cars.
I mean, when it comes to most things, I've actually never had a car. I don't know the first thing about cars.
Listen, I didn't know anything about painting when I became an art critic. Like,
you still don't know anything about painting, and
there's
art critic
there's room for charlatanism in this world.
All right.
And we could be charlatan brothers who do cars. Or we could just Google the problem, be like, in my opinion, you should go to your mechanic and have him look at the carburetor. And then you laugh at that, go like this, ah, ha, 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 ha. And then we would go next caller.
All right.
I just think this is a win-win. We have so many friends.
Okay, so clearly we can't do that now, but I guess if you want to do a little segment every week, if you're out there listening and you have a problem with your car,
now you're talking, brother. I love this. Keep going.
Then I guess what you should do is either contact one of us or both of us and tell us what the problem and solution is. And then
if your check engine light is on,
anyway,
you shoot me a text message and I'll take it from there.
Max, the world doesn't need us to talk about cars and how to fix them. The world needs us to talk about sports and all the problems with it and all the reasons that it's fucked up, but also to explain why we still like it and why we're still fans, and to look at the ugly truths and to put them and not shy away from them, and to just be as honest and transparent as we can about where we're at and about why sports are fun and why sports are deeply problematic, and use that as a launching pad to talk about all sorts of issues, be they Boston related, brother related, or just general leftist politics related. That's what the world wants. I guess they want to hear some, I don't know, familial anecdotes or banter. Probably not. It's hard to imagine, but
I just think that if you like that, you're able to imagine people wanting to hear about us talking about sports in the manner in which you just let unfold. That fact that you can't imagine people just tuning in for the familiar banter, even though that is literally the only feedback we've ever received, is that the sports stuff is crap, but I really like your rapport.
Yeah, well,
even though everything you just said, you listed, it was completely ahistorical, and there's literally no evidence to support your theory about the importance of this
what
podcast.
are you doing? You're trying to like take down the edifice, like the whole the edifice of the show. The whole thing is that we think people are listening to us talk about sports, and the audience gets to make up their own mind why they're listening. And we don't.
Okay, so fine. We'll just talk about sports. I think we should talk about football, even though since this whatever season we're on has happened.
Season 3.
Since we last recorded an episode, Sam, Bob Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, accepted an award for distinguishing acts of Zionism by Benjamin Netanyahu. So
crazy.
Here I am, an anti-Zionist zealot, an activist, and an organizer against Zionism, and everything I stand for and hold dear, all of my ideals are run directly up against my rooting interest in sports, and yet here I am on with a internet platform saying how I still like football.
That's what people are coming for. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't think that's true. I think they just are looking down there.
Put that contradiction up on the table and take it.
They just feel bad for me.
No.
Like that I'm like a simpleton and a naive person who can't like work through his childhood nostalgia and like apply his real world adult lenses to what's actually happening.
It's not simply nostalgia that keeps us watching.
But why wouldn't I root for another team?
What do you...
Yeah, I know. Because other teams' owners aren't Israel fetishists.
Yeah, but as we've already covered extensively on the show, and they are fucked up in a number of different ways, and that's also an area that I would like to go back to, but I already know because you told me before we started recording that you're not ready to do so.
Yeah. Once again, I didn't do any research for this episode, so not only am I sorry about not doing any episodes before this, I'm sorry about not doing any research for the episode that you are now listening to.
Right. So in light of that, I think that we should table the deep dive into the darkness of NFL owners across the board for later episodes and instead shift gears. Did you see that the Straight Pride Parade happened in Boston last week? I was surprised. I know that you're in Cape Cod right now. I was surprised you didn't make a trip down for that.
Well, I was actually tempted because of how fascistic and racist everyone involved was.
Yes. And what would you have done if you had gotten there?
I would have been one of the people getting arrested for protesting it and pepper sprayed by that renegade Boston cop. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that, and it's horrible to watch that. And as you know, and you've been on the horrific wrong side of police backlash at a protest, and it's I don't know what it gets us. I don't know what it gets us to organize a big counter protest against the straight pride losers. It kind of I feel like it legitimizes them in a certain way, and also it ends up with people getting maced and destroyed. So I don't know. I was thinking about maybe alternative ways that we could.
No, these people who march in these things need to be beaten and ostracized and forced underground.
Yeah,
that's the whole idea of this type of thing.
That's a very violent solution, but I have a much peaceful, more loving solution, and that's that we get a database of straight people, straight guys around the country who will agree to suck dick if they hold any more straight pride parades.
Sam, if you let me just unpack that. You think that by threatening, saying like you and me as brothers, as heterosexual brothers, will perform oral sex on other people, not each other.
No, not each other.
That's gross.
It's just that's not our style.
It's wrong.
I guess it's wrong. But not just us.
Sorry, everyone.
Not just us, but like hundreds, even thousands of people out there agreeing to suck dick. Straight men suck dick in.
So if everyone who is in Fenway Park, if all the men in Fenway Park were if you guys organize another one of these straight pride parades, we are going to, as an affront to your heterosexuality, perform a homosexual act.
Yeah. And if they're really against homosexuality, which I think they're
not.
They're not?
No, they're not. They're just white nationalists.
No. Well,
so it probably won't work.
Alternatively, like I think they're probably incels. Like alternatively, if we could find people to agree to.
Nope. No, we should just beat them up and send them underground.
I want a loving solution, a peaceful solution.
First of all, we need to talk about this Boston Pride Parade, Sam. First and foremost, we, as sports fans, we need to acknowledge that nobody in Boston deserves a parade.
What?
Yeah, you heard me.
I don't know
who amongst us deserves a parade in that city?
Well, we get parades every year. We got 2 parades last year, and we're gonna win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, do we
again.
deserve them? No. Let's ask. This is a good thought experiment. Who deserves a parade in Boston? Like public school teachers? Yes. Vita Urbana, the people who prevent foreclosures in Roxbury? But like basically no purple-faced white dude named Joey, Murph, or Sullivan deserves a parade. They like so any. I just think like we should have a. I think the best solution after having a Boston Pride Parade, a straight Pride Parade, is to not issue any parade permits for at least a year until we can figure out what's going on.
You want a moratorium on all parades?
I just think that's what the first and like that's having seen what has happened, that you can just get a parade for being prideful about your straightness. Like it's like the end of a Borat movie. What's the gay Borat movie called?
Bruno,
right. It's like the straight Dan or Lieutenant Dan or whatever.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Did you see that movie?
Maybe not, but maybe if so, I don't really remember it.
It's kind of it's trash. It's bad. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm just saying that in the wake of such a terrible and embarrassing thing happening, we should have a town meeting where we commission a study to figure out how this could have happened. And until that study is completed, we should have a moratorium on parades in the city of Boston. No one in Boston should be allowed.
All right.
Because it's not like we're having good parades.
Well, I'm sure the Patriots parade was really good.
I mean, like, that sounds like a straight pride parade, doesn't it?
No.
Okay, Sam.
All right. So, moving on.
Another bad thing that's happened since your podcast wilderness out in the whatever. Your boy Kyrie Irving betrayed us.
That's an interesting thing to talk about. Kyrie Irving betrayed us. That's true.
Betrayed us.
I don't really even know how else to say it. And
he said he was going to sign with us long term, and then as soon as he became a free agent, he didn't even talk to the Celtics. He just immediately went to Brooklyn.
I was in the shock while that was happening. I still, up until the very end, I was one of like the few people who was being like, no, he's coming back. He's still. It's even weird. I'll say this. Obviously, it was a really bad fit. I actually there was a lot of things about Kyrie Irving that I really liked being a fan of and liked rooting for, and I didn't like the environment that had risen in the Celtics season last year. Obviously, that was really frustrating and not fun to watch, but like Kyrie's game is still so beautiful to think about it, and is such a great exemplar of why basketball is beautiful and fun. And Kyrie's personality is still kind of like, I don't think he's a total fraud or anything. I still think he's kind of a cool dude. So now we have Kemba Walker, and I guess that's the best possible scenario of what could have happened in terms of our point guard situation this offseason. It really is. And yet, I just don't know who Kemba Walker is. I don't know his personality, and so I just don't really know who the Boston Celtics are right now, or what to really do about Kyrie. I mean, do you have any? What do you have to say about that? Kyrie's gone, and that's sad. It's sad to lose someone that you kind of had a relationship with, even if and it ultimately ended pretty badly, right?
It ended terribly. He jacked up 45 shots a game and said, "I don't give a shit," in the playoffs.
I know.
When the Boston Slam seemed like it was going to happen, Kyrie is what made it stop seeming like it was going to happen.
Kyrie ruined the Boston Slam.
So Kyrie has some blood on his hands. He also, ran into like the most racist sports media market in any town I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think, but also like now we can finally say that Kyrie Irving is batshit insane. And if this motherfucker is so rich and can be awarded like $100 million shoe contract on top of his $100 million NBA contract, he can afford a fucking boat to cruise around and like verify once and for all that the world is in fact round. But he doesn't do that. So I deprecate his commitment to the scientific method, and I think he's a fucking idiot who doesn't believe the world is round.
I can't believe that you
and I'm glad Kemba Walker, who does believe in physics, is our point guard, because he's really good and he's not an asshole and he's like has New England roots. I'm all in on Kemba Walker. He's playing with number 8, like Antoine Walker. So my old Antoine Walker jersey is once
really
again
cool.
relevant,
That's really
which
cool.
feels really cool.
That is amazing. And I mean, he's the best player on Team USA right now. Finally, I mean, we should also mention that there are 4 Boston Celtic players on representing the United States in the FIBA Basketball World Cup that's going on right now. So once again, the entire United States of America, all 50 states, look to Boston to deliver them into the land of championship heaven.
Wait, so you're saying that wait a minute. Are you likening our FIBA World Cup of Basketball contributions, or the Celtics contributions, to the Battle of Lexington and Concord and Bunker Hill?
Sure. For instance, I mean, that's kind of the beginning of a long line of traditional, like a long.
This is a provocative line of thinking, and I'm here for it, Sam.
Thanks.
So you're saying that we should just walk around demanding thank yous for people for like the martyrdom of Crispus Attucks, the invention of the telephone, and the 2019 FIBA World Cup?
Well, we'll see how it turns out, because literally anyone could win. The USA team is not. They don't even look like the favorites necessarily. There kind of is no favorite, and so that's what's going to make this really exciting. Is the whole world is going to be looking at Boston to kind of see what happens. Wait, speaking of like you have this weird thing where you like to, you're, as we've already covered, you're extremely piss poor at apologizing and recognizing your own faults and wrongdoings. But you do have a
I don't believe we've covered this.
We did cover that, but moving on. You also have a predilection to demand apologies from people, and
yes, like you, for instance, for reneging on your Kickstarter, which I was wise enough not to contribute to, but other things.
First of all, fuck you. Second of all, I don't want to talk about my Kickstarter from the year 2007 or 8. But what I do want to talk about is how you last time, like, I don't know if the podcast existed on July 4th, but I do remember we FaceTimed.
No, it didn't exist, because the last podcast we recorded was June 8th.
June 8th. Wow, you remember that.
Mom's birthday.
Wait, really?
Okay.
The last podcast we did was on Mom's birthday. It's bizarre. Anyway, on July 4th, I FaceTimed you, and you were in London. I was like, "Hey, what's up, man? What are you up to?" And you just were like, "Nothing. I gotta go pass some of these out." And I was like, "What?" And you had a folder in your hand of copies of the Declaration of Independence, and I think you were gonna like go read them and pass them out and try and get the guard the red coat guard to try and apologize to you.
Can you believe that these British people actually parade around in red coats as though they have no connection to their past?
Dude,
like, they don't self-identify as red coats, and it's wild to me. It's just wild. They're like, oh no, it's totally normal for a fucking lobster back to be protecting Buckingham Palace. And the Queen. Like, we have a queen. We need red coats to protect her. It might as well be 1776. It's almost as if Paul Revere died for nothing. That's what it's like to be in London on the 4th of July.
Well, all this is just to say, I guess, that I think
we're back, baby. We're fucking back.
Boston,
that's what this
Boston
is to say.
Is back in a big way on the world stage, and
we're here for it.
With Boston,
there's a new Ben Affleck and Matt Damon movie coming out,
and there's a season 3 of Phone Wallet Keys, David Ortiz. And now a break from our sponsor.
Do you want to edit in a fake product?
Yeah, I have a product that I'd like to that doesn't exist, but I think it should. I want a Narcan for weed. I want a way to I want a little thing that you can, if I'm like overdosing on weed, which I basically do every time I smoke now, I want to have a little inhaler that I can just like hit real quick that will block the receptors in my brain and will stop the high. And then I also want to be able to.
This is good. We'll do this right now.
I want to be able to vaporize it. I want to be able to vaporize it so I can spray it in your face before we do things like have a podcast. So I just think that'd be an amazing weapon to have, especially in our family. Just like walk around, Dad, you, before we're getting before having dinner or something, you just like vaporize the Narcan of weed into everyone's faces so we can just
before
get even.
Like I truly believe that if Dad had this and we could just mace him with it, he would be like, wait a minute, I don't like the Rachel Maddow show, and we would like have no family fights anymore.
Dude, because actually, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so ashamed and embarrassed to admit that we start at something like Rachel Maddow, and Max will make fun of my dad for liking her, and then he'll get really upset and defensive and will like say something nasty back, at which point Max will completely lose his shit, and thus like at every night at the Geller family begins and ends with tears from everyone.
It's not true. There was like one incident like that last year, and then like a small flare up again this year, and then we figured it out, and we've been doing really good. Once again, your characterization just to get like a laugh out of Toby isn't gonna work because I've set the record straight.
I want to dose Dad. I guess I'd have to probably take some mushrooms with him in order to make it ethical. But I think that...
Go on. No, I'm sorry. You're on the cusp. You're like quivering on the verge of a real moral breakthrough here. Go on.
That it's not okay to dose people, especially your 72-year-old parents. I'm going to read that Michael Pollan book, How to Change Your Mind, which I think is all about how psychedelics and end-of-life scenarios mesh, and that the reviews are really high. And I think our father is beginning to show signs of his age. He's, as I said, he's 72 and he's acting like it, which isn't a disaster or anything, but it is like, and he's really scared about losing his mind. And I think part of that fear is actually becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, but also, I mean, everyone loses their mind eventually, or their body. Like that's part of what this whole life and death thing is anyway.
Yeah,
but I think
I just think given both his parents having had or have Alzheimer's is makes him think that he's definitely going to get it.
Yes, but it consumes him, and I think that if he could release that, he'd be happier, and also it might even improve his mental health. So, do you think that he would?
So
take
we went from
mushrooms?
hawking. Wait. So okay, let me just retrace our steps here. We went from doing a break, and then the suggestion was to do a fake product during our breaks, like as a joke, and then you came up with a great fake product. Then you turned it into a weapon to spray on me before podcast and Dad before the Rachel Maddow show. But now you're like, we're actually talking for real about you dosing Dad based on a Michael Pollan book, which brings me up to my point. The other day I was stung by a bee.
Okay.
And I got so angry at bees and the existence of bees that I was thinking about how it would be funny if this one stinging incident became the subject for a Michael Pollan book, like the world, how the world was doing before Max was stung by a bee versus how it was doing immediately after Max personally made eradicating bees from this planet a personal priority.
I mean,
is how I imagine
why you
this
would
book
imagine
being written.
that to be a Michael Pollan book is there's only one explanation for it, and that is that you vaguely in the deep and dank recesses of your brain, you have the phrase the human bumblebee effect that is associated with Michael Pollan because it's from his book Botany of Desire, but it has nothing to do with the interaction of humans and bees. That's just how your disgusting and scary brain works.
Oh, that's funny. I actually think it's less complicated than that. It's because I was smelling flowers when the bee stung me, and I got some pollen on me, probably, and that's why the bee came over, and I blamed it on Michael Pollan. But I was so mad at bees, Sam.
Yeah, I mean that's insane. Bees are dying, and they're gonna bring us all down with them. So it's really crazy.
If you saw the size of this bee, you would be like, oh, I think maybe it's a good idea for bees to die, and I also think it's a good idea for me to be armed at all times because a fly swatter wouldn't have done anything to this fucking creature that gored me with its harpoon.
It died to do that, and it died a noble death, if you ask me, for fighting a noble cause. Also, I can't really take your weird vendettas against random animals. Like a couple summers ago, it was like you became obsessed with killing chipmunks. It's so weird. It feels like
those chipmunks were tearing up our moss.
Yes, specially it's punching down, but in this particular case, I wouldn't put you above chipmunks. I certainly wouldn't put you above bees either. And I'm a humanist. But anyway, what are the chances that our dad would willingly agree to take mushrooms with me?
I mean, I remember finding his weed when I was in high school. So that was 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. 20 years ago, he was doing mushrooms.
Why, you found mushrooms?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that he was doing mushrooms. That means that he probably had a friend, Eric, probably, who gave him
got some mushrooms.
And he gave it to him, and they could have been in his closet for 10 years.
I agree.
I kind of he seems a little too uptight to me to do mushrooms now, to be a candidate, to willingly do mushrooms, which is why I think we should dose him.
Even though he's a retired person and has nothing to be uptight about?
Yeah. In any event, let's talk about...
Why do you want to do mushrooms with him?
I don't.
You
want
to change his mind?
Yeah, I just want to ease his kind of the cycle and the tension of him being afraid of getting old, and then also getting old and it becoming this I just want I want everything to be released. I think there's a lot of tension. That's okay. Let's talk about this Patriots
You
season.
both should try Buddhism.
Me and Dad?
Instead of mushrooms.
And what will you do?
Laugh at you as you sit under a tree and pour mushroom tea into Dad's cup without him. No, all right. You want to talk about the Patriots? I'm ready because Josh Gordon's back.
That's right. Let's do a little Patriots preview and then let's call it a day.
I think it's been a good podcast so far.
I'm glad you think so. And I hope if you're listening out there, you agree. And if you do, let us know. Follow us on Twitter at Phone Wallet Keys, David Ortiz. And maybe we'll make some Instagram posts too. And
yeah, no, definitely follow us on Twitter. You're missing Sam texting his bandmate. It's really fun to have a shared Twitter account.
But you tweet sometimes, and it's great when you do. You're a good little tweeter.
And you're a nice friend to Joey Valley.
Joey, purple faced Joey Valley from Boston. I want to throw you a parade. All right, give me the biggest question mark and the 3 biggest exclamation points for this Patriots season, in your estimation. And let's do this. Start with exclamation point, 1, 2, question mark, and then 3rd exclamation point. All right.
I don't understand. Like, do you want me to shout 2 things, ask one, like with like an up, like speak, and then shout the last one?
For the sake
what do you mean by exclamation point?
Do not shout. Don't. In general, when we're recording a podcast, don't shout. It's not nice for people listening.
But then, like, what
even
do you
that
want?
is too loud. Just bring it down.
Don't say emphasis then. An exclamation point is about emphasis.
What? All right, just give me 2 things that you're excited about. But
like,
don't express them in overexcited manners.
Okay. I'll give you 2 declarative statements. 1 interrogatory statement, and then another, follow that up with a strong declarative. Okay.
It's like a haiku. You have to be strict with it. 1, 2, question, boom. All right. And each one needs to be like relatively short. It can't be an idea that you're trying to hash out. I want it. Go now. Don't think about it. Go. 1.
I'm thinking about it.
Oh, all right, fine. Think about it for a second.
Why wouldn't I want to think about it?
I guess I just was interested in your what your automatic.
Well,
brain.
I'm concerned about our offensive line because our awesome center is out for the year, maybe because he has
definitely out for the year.
His lungs are bleeding.
Yeah, David Andrews is on injury reserve and he will not come back because lungs are bleeding. I don't know. I forget why.
Because his lungs are bleeding. Because football players have the most gruesome shit ever afflict them.
So offense.
So I'm concerned about the offensive line.
Is a fucking question. That would have been a perfect candidate for one of the questions. But
my question is, can we still be a good,
I'm not
effective power
asking
running
you
team?
what your question is right now. I'm asking for a declarative statement about what you're feeling good about.
Oh, what I'm feeling good about? I'm feeling good about our defense. Our defense, which held the Rams
really good.
to 3 fucking points in the Super Bowl that I was at, is back and better than ever.
Did our defense get better than it was last year?
Yes.
How so?
We got Michael Bennett.
We lost Trey Flowers, which is an enormous loss.
We got Michael Bennett, which is awesome, and he's an anti-Zionist, which is very interesting. He refused to go to Israel.
Shout out to Michael Bennett. And that's the brother of our former tight end, Martellius Bennett, right?
Correct.
So that's awesome to have the other, another brother on our team. We still have the twins, Devin and Jason McCourty. Were there any other... Oh, we drafted some people, some linebacker or like our edge rusher that people are really excited about with a long blonde hair guy. What's his name?
Chase Winovich.
Yeah, people are really pumped about that guy.
He strikes me as a potential Barstool Sports MAGA guy.
Oh, really?
Which we should probably talk about. Yeah.
Why? You're making a judgment on his appearance? He's got long hair.
I think he says stupid stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. I'm afraid he's this professional football player is actually a jock.
Wait, what do you think would happen if Barstool Sports, which when the Ringers were unionizing and all the the head of Barstool Sports, which if you don't know is like an organization that came out of Boston and was Boston centric in the beginning and then just became kind of a national sports bro kind of right leaning
content maker
with lots of memes and they're generally misogynistic and racist and It's like an update on the old school racist, right wing, misogynistic Boston sports media,
Sports
but
media
it's kind of
culture, yeah.
for millennials. It was like an update on them. What do you think? And so when that happened, when the Ringer staff, which is kind of like the neoliberal counterpart to Barstool Sports, the Bill Simmons content maker, when their staff unionized, the Barstool Sports guy came out saying, I'd love it if my staff tried to form a union so I could fire them all. He kind of just said a bunch of fucking nasty shit, right?
Yes.
What do you think would have happened if I got a database of like 50,000 men, straight men, to say, we're going to suck a dick if you don't let your...
I think you would know the taste of someone else's cum if you did that. I think the only thing that would happen is that you would have a better idea about what other people's semen tastes like.
I mean, the thing is, I don't read Barstool Sports anyway, so I feel like I don't know what I can do to... I can't like protest them or like...
No, but you can definitely amass a database of 50,000 straight-leaning men who would be willing to go down on a dude in protest of the labor policies of a sports website.
Thank you. I think I could too. Thanks for believing.
That's a really smart idea.
Okay,
I'm so proud of you, and I love you so much, and I just like
That's
feel
really
like
sweet.
I have succeeded in pointing you in the right direction, and I'm just like smiling, watching like all of the progress you're making.
Wow, that feels really good. Thank you for saying all those wonderful things.
I believe we were talking about
the
the
Patriots.
Patriots. Yeah. So I think one question I have is whether or not we can still be an effective power running team, even though we've abandoned the tight end position.
Right. So the David Andrews injury, the injury to right center, is concerning, but I actually think that the backup Ted Karras is going to be fine, and I think that the guy that we traded for is supposed to be really good too. So I actually think our offensive line, a bigger deal for our running game is the loss of Gronkowski as a blocker. It was one of the best blockers.
And just because when he's on the field, you can do both pass plays and running plays,
right,
and they can't really.
So opposing teams had no idea what was coming based on whether or not we had Gronk in. But so I think obviously it's really sad to lose Gronkowski. He retired in the offseason. I loved him, watching him for many, many years. But he had not been his most effective. He hadn't been as effective as he was earlier he hadn't been as effective as he was earlier in his career as a phenomenal, unstoppable pass catcher, but he still was, I think, as effective as one of the best blockers in the league. So yeah, I think the power running is a question mark. You think Sonny Michel is a power runner? I never quite saw him as like a Corey Dillon or LeGarrette Blount type.
We had a power running game like in the last few games of the regular season and throughout the playoffs. It was just like gain 6 yards on the ground and do it again, control the ball for a long time. It was a run-oriented game that we played.
I mean, we run the ball and then we throw we convert a first down to Julian Edelman, on third and 4. We try and get in general, I think our offense just tries to get to like 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, where it can then just complete a short pass. I'm really excited about our offensive weapons. I'm not... Okay, I think... Are you at all concerned about Tom Brady in his 42nd season, coming off of his 6th Super Bowl win?
Nope.
But showing plenty... I mean, the thing is, as demonstrated last year, Brady's not going to be as good as Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to be one of the best 3 quarterbacks in the league, but he'll definitely be one of the best 5 or 6, and he'll definitely be good enough. I mean, he'll be the one player in the entire league that you would want in a must-win, do-or-die situation. So I still think no quarterback gives you a better chance to win a Super Bowl in the 2019 season than Tom Brady.
I think we're going to win the Super Bowl.
I do too.
Yeah, it's great.
So yeah, Josh Gordon came back from his suspension for violating the substance abuse
I
policy.
think we're going to win the Super Bowl, brother. Isn't that nice?
It is nice, and it does kind of require some repeating because in that sense, you think we're going to win the Super Bowl. That's what I've thought for the last 5 years. We've been in the Super Bowl for the last 5 years, 4 years, maybe 5. It's just
so you're usually right.
I always think we're going to win the Super Bowl, and we always kind of do most of the time.
Mostly.
I wonder if now that we're not talking about the Boston Slam anymore, as a quick recap, we like if our fandom for like if winning, for like the Patriots is going to be less defensible, because I think the Boston Slam was a way for people to like everyone hates the Patriots, but because it was couched in like the rhetoric that people were wanting to hear about revolution and overthrowing the government, it made it a little bit more palatable. And now that we lost that, I feel like we lost something central to the thesis of this podcast. Now we're just like Patriots fans who want to win, and we don't. There's no
right. It's a huge problem.
Well,
the revolution is going to have to be organized and fought for. It's not just going to come about organically because of the success of Boston sports teams. And it's also hard to have a fucking sports podcast when you vanquished all your enemies. Like, right. Who am I worried about? I mean, if the Yankees win the World Series, I'll be like devastated and pissed and like in a really dark place. So I guess we haven't completely vanquished them all. But even if the Yankees win, no one's touching the Red Sox being the winningest team in baseball this century. No one's touching the fact that the Patriots have the most championships of any team, or the Celtics have the most championships of any team, or that Boston has the team with the most championships of any professional sports franchise after integration. You know what I mean? Like, we vanquished all of our enemies. Why are we even having a podcast if there's no one left for us to conquer? We're like Thanos, son.
Because we still got to get the trains running on time, Max. And it's not going to be maybe the highest drama, the sexiest thing anymore, but there's still plenty of nitty-gritty of what we need to do day in and day out to maintain this level of greatness that we've set up for ourselves. And so we're just going to try and do our part. And I want to personally thank you for tuning in and listening as we do our best and bearing with us and coming back and reaching out to us in our dark moments away from the pod, saying that you liked it and that you wanted us to keep going. Yeah, I just want to say thank you. And I think we should start to wrap this up. We didn't really get to cover the assassination attempt of David Ortiz too much, but I'll give a little teaser of next week's episode. Stay tuned next week to hear my brother explain how the assassination attempt of David Ortiz is another example of colonialism rearing its hideous head, and to find out what you can do to prevent further assassinations of your Bostonian heroes. But I think that's it for this episode. Is that right, Max?
Yeah, I love you so much.
I love you too. And
good job, brother.
Good job, Max. And thank you all for listening to next week. Phone Wallet Keys, David Ortiz. Bye, everybody.
Bye.